girl.
I miss you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We need to FaceTime because we don't get out much.
Good morning, everybody. Unmute your mics. Everybody unmute.
Howdy.
Yes, good to hear everybody's voice. All right. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. How's everybody doing? All right, let's do a quick poll. 5, you're doing better than you've ever done in your life. 1 is you are just barely hanging on by a shoestring. Hold it up. 5 to 1. Let me see. I'm going to scroll through. Keep it up. Let me see. Okay. All right. Good. See some 2, see some 5s. Chances of 5. Wow. Hunter's a 3.
5.
Wow. Hannah's a 2. Hannah, good to see you. All right. Natalie's a 4. CJ's a 3 to 4. That's interesting. Okay. We got some Frank's a 3. Andrew, a 2. Are you kidding me? Andrew, I heard Vocalise's deliverable. Your what is it? Spread love or something like that y'all do?
Woo!
I can't wait for everybody to see it. Sam, good to see you there today. You were in that video too. Anyway, that was terrific. Daisy a 4. That's good. Going through here. Good, good. Well, fantastic. Well, it's good to see you all. What have we been talking about in Performance Forum? For the most part, we've been having guests, but what have we been kind of focusing our conversations on? This is an interactive experience. Somebody tell me. Some brave soul.
Relational marks, relationship marks.
Relational marks. Why do we call them marks? Micah Burgess, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Why do we call these relational habits marks?
I don't know.
Well, thank you for your honesty. Let me remind, anybody want to remind Micah?
It's like marking a tree.
Joseph, good morning. Yes,
morning.
Go for it.
It's like marking on a tree. You're setting your mark on the world, leaving your mark.
Yes, that is an acceptable answer. It's good to see you. Yes, the idea of character, our mission in the School of Music is to inspire students, right? You to the highest standards of musical craft, but also personal character, because those two are the recipe that really creates success in life. And we want you to be successful. So we talk a lot about performance. We talk a lot about musical craft in our classes, but we're dedicating some specific time this semester to discovering and exploring personal character. And the original word for character comes from the word karasign, which is a Greek word which means to mark something, like a tree, a distinctive of something. Like you're going around, you see a bunch of trees that look all the same, and then there's one that's got a specific mark or a specific distinctive to it. This is the idea of your character. Who are you? How do others perceive you? What are your distinctives in living your life? Specifically, given all that we're doing in our day and living through in our day, I felt it was appropriate to spend and focus on some relational marks this coming or this semester, and really kind of unpack those. There are personal marks, in my view, who you are. Relational marks have to do with how you integrate and influence others. And then there's spiritual marks, which we're not really going into this semester, but we're going to focus and have been most of our time on these marks that are relational in nature. Somebody want to tell me one of the marks that we have studied or unpacked or discussed up to this point? Somebody. We've covered 8 thus far. Can anybody remember any of them?
Mark of respect.
The mark of respect. Respecting what? The value of a person, who they are, their distinctives as an individual, their position, their perspective, living a life, living the mark of respect for everyone, no matter who they are or where they've come from, respecting who they are, their perspective, and their position. Somebody else.
Deference. Leadership.
Deference. Yes, deference. What is deference? Anybody?
It is limiting my individual freedom in order to protect the well-being and serve the needs, differences of others.
Who said that? Is that Chance? Goodness gracious, yes. Excellent. We all have freedoms and we're grateful for those freedoms. But rather than using our freedom to be selfish and to advocate for our selfish needs and desires, instead, deference is using that freedom to protect others, their psychology, their spiritual life, their physical well-being. And that is deference. And living a life of deference to others is so very important and a very important distinctive. Somebody else, another one.
Indiscriminate generosity.
Indiscriminate generosity. Explain that for us.
Okay, so indiscriminate generosity is gifting attention, resources, assistance, and encouragement to all people without expecting anything in return.
Yes, that's exactly right. What do most people do? And you see it play out everywhere. Who are they really generous with their time and their attention? They lavish generosity onto who?
The people that they think will get them somewhere.
Right.
Everybody.
That's exactly right. And what do they typically do with people who they don't perceive they can gain anything from?
Kind of just push them aside.
They push them aside. They just dismiss them. And that is not Christ-like, and it's not wise in life, because so often you reap what you sow and the tables are turned. And 20 years from now, the people that you didn't think you had anything to gain from, so many times are in positions of responsibility over you. And you need them to be able to achieve the success that you have in life, and so on and so forth. So indiscriminate generosity is such an important habit to live, a mark of distinction in our relationships. Somebody said, I think leadership. I think I heard someone say, who was that?
Me.
Yes. Beyonce, good morning. Tell us what leadership is.
Leadership is like to lead someone not with fear, but kind of with, I'm trying to think of the word. It's not to dominate, but to kind of always tell them that you're proud of them, even on their like smallest accomplishments.
Excellent. Yes, inspire them, I think maybe is the word you were looking for. That's exactly right. And you cited it well. So leadership is not about position, right? It's not about a title. It's about living your life and your habits in such a way where it sets the standard for those above you, beside you, and below you in terms of an organization. Leadership is living the standard. Everybody say that. Living the standard. Say it again. Living the standard. And that you have opportunity always in your life to distinguish yourself as a leader. And let me ask a question. When you have more and more people in a certain organization or doing something, does leadership come naturally if there are many people trying to do something? No, leadership is odd. It's harder to be a leader when you're in a mass of people, because you have the mentality that, if I don't do this, if I don't really excel, somebody's going to cover it. And the reality is that organizations will only rise to their potential if everybody in the organization has the mentality of this, that if everybody does it like me, it would be a success. That's how you know if you're a leader or not, if you can say that with confidence and treat everything that you're a part of, if it's an ensemble, if it's a team, whatever it is, treat it that you're going to perform in such a way that if everybody did it like you, it would be dynamite success. And that is what leadership is. Somebody else.
Active listening.
Active listening. Oh my goodness. Probably the most important one we've talked about yet, if I had to narrow it down. What is active listening? Someone. Natalie, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good.
In your own words, how would you say, what would you say active listening is?
So it's like showing a person their worth by giving them your full attention to what they're saying.
Yes, showing them their worth, demonstrating the worth of an individual by giving undivided concentration to their needs and to who they are. That's so incredibly important. People equate value with listening. People love who listen to them. And if you want to have an influence with people, if you want to have a hearing with people, it starts by earning that hearing by demonstrating that you care about them, demonstrating that you love them, And you do that most effectively by asking good questions, zeroing in and giving them undivided concentration, listening to them, asking follow-up questions, and giving them a voice. And once you've given them a voice, then you've generated a hearing that if you have something to add to the conversation, they're actually going to listen to you. But if you go into life talking and not listening as a first posture, nobody's going to listen to you. Nobody's going to follow you. Nobody's going to care. Active listening is so incredibly important as a habit, as a mark, no matter who you are. Somebody else, another one.
Restorative confrontation.
Yes, restorative conversation. Not conversation, confrontation. Somebody, Chloe, tell me what that means.
Honoring others with authentic humility, direct honesty, and reconciliatory outreach in the midst of inevitable conflicts.
Yes.
Confrontation for restoration.
Yes, Chloe, great reading off your notes. That was wonderful. Let me ask you a question. And thank you for taking them, by the way. That's an example. That's a leadership right there. Can you tell me, is life laden with conflict?
Yes.
All the time?
Always, constantly.
Family conflict?
Yeah.
Friends have conflict?
Yeah.
Do enemies have conflict?
Yeah.
Why? Because who are we? Are we perfect?
No.
We're not perfect individuals. We're human and we're different. And we think about ourselves for the most part. And you know what? That is a recipe for conflict. And if we have a habit or a mark in our character that when there's conflict or offense that happens between us and a family member or a friend or someone like that, if that takes place, if we, our first go-to is to talk bad about them behind their back or to just dwell on it and hold it in, then we are setting ourselves up for a life of bitterness, of conflict and bad relationships. But if we'll practice this incredible habit of restorative confrontation, where you go to someone humbly, in love, in honesty, with the purpose of winning back the relationship, because it means so much to you, and expressing that, and having an honest conversation and receiving understanding, asking them, help me understand this. How do I interpret what you did? And then being prepared to forgive them and restore the relationship. That habit will be so incredibly important in your office, in your school classroom, in your family dynamic, all across the board in your relationships. Such an important job. Chloe, great job. Everybody unmute your mic and give Chloe a rousing round of applause. Jones, everybody. Anybody else? Another one. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here. There's only a couple left.
To Beyonce, she mentioned inspiration, but I don't think we went into it yet.
Yes, inspirational leadership was one of those things. People tend to lead one of two ways. They tend to deal with others one of two ways. They tend to lead through domination or through inspiration. Domination meaning guilt. Domination meaning forcing people to do stuff, generating a culture of fear and embarrassment. Professors sometimes do this. They shouldn't. Leaders sometimes do this. They shouldn't. Pastors sometimes do this. They shouldn't. Conductors sometimes do this. They shouldn't. They shouldn't lead by domination. What should they lead by? Inspiration. That doesn't mean not setting a high standard and expecting people to rise to it and demanding great excellence. That's part of inspiration. But high expectations or high demands plus enthusiastic affirmation equals inspirational leadership. Let me say that again. High demands plus enthusiastic affirmation equals inspirational leadership. You have to have both of those. I made a statement that what you celebrate, you what? If you want to create culture, how do you do it, Joseph Lopez?
What was that?
What you celebrate, you what? Do you remember this?
Procreate.
Procreate. Okay, that's the basic idea. Yes. What you celebrate, you replicate, I would say. But that's okay. Good shot. Same basic concept. What you celebrate, you replicate. So if you want to create excellence in culture, look for opportunities to celebrate it when you see it in front of others in public. And through that, you can inspire people to rise to high standards rather than trying to dominate them into that, which really just erodes into negativity and toxicity in the culture. All right, good. Somebody else. Last one. We've had respect, indiscriminate generosity, restorative confrontation, active listening, deference, leadership, inspiration. There was one more. Anybody remember?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Excellent. Collaboration. What does this mean to collaborate with others? When you are showing leadership, if you will give people skin in the game, if you will include people and get their input in the process, in the strategy, in the execution of things, give them position, give them responsibility, give them praise, you will bring people's posture who are in your organization from kind of sitting back and just listening to you bark out orders in kind of a skeptical posture. You'll change that posture to where they're excited and they want to be a part. Why? Because they have ownership in what you are doing. That's so important. It works student to student. It works professor to student. It works boss to employee or whatever the case might be. Be a collaborator in what you do and you will see productivity skyrocket. All right, today I've got 3 more. Everybody unmute your mic and stand up. Before we get to them, let's stretch. Here we go. Everybody up. It's been a long week. That was all review. Come on, Andrew. Come on. You got to get the blood flowing, man. Roll your shoulders. That's it. Roll them frontward. Reach down, touch your toes. Shake your arms out. Yawn. Everybody go, woo-hoo-hoo! Oh, yes. You got your pencil? You got your black book to listen, Norholm. Good to see you there today. Right.
I have a sparkly book, but yes.
You have a sparkly book. That's just fine. We're going to learn about 3 very important additional marks today. And I'm going to use as object lessons 3 things. I'm going to use a $20 bill and a Visa credit card. I'm going to use a stopwatch. And I'm going to use a microphone as object lessons to help us remember what these 3 things are. I'm going to start with a $20 bill and a Visa card. The first thing that I want to talk about today is service. Everybody unmute your mic and say service. Say it.
Service.
Share my screen. What is service? A relational habit of serving others. What am I talking about? The definition of service is on your screen. Voluntarily. Oh my goodness, this is so important. Voluntarily giving of my time, energy, and resources to meet the needs of those around me. Voluntarily giving of my resources, my time, my energy, could be my financial resources. Giving of what I have to give to meet the needs of those around me. In other words, spending my resources on others versus spending my resources on myself. There is an idea. As humans, listen, we are naturally wired to meet our own needs. Instinctually, we don't look to meet the needs of everybody else. What do we always look to do? If we're hungry, what's occupying our brain? Is it to make sure that the next person gets fed? No, we are in the interest of meeting our hunger need. If we are cold, are we more apt to meet somebody else's need who is cold, or are we dominated or consumed with meeting our own need to get warm? We are wired instinctually to meet our own needs, to serve our own appetites and instincts, and to serve our own advancement. But this is one of the biggest distinctives of Christianity. Jesus introduced a whole new model by his example. One of Jesus' principal distinctives in relation to others was that he took on a posture of service. He was a servant. He didn't use his unrivaled position his endless power and unlimited resources for his own advantage, but rather to meet the needs of others. He lived, listen, he lived to meet the needs of others. Listen, and this is important, not out of compulsion, not out of constraint, not because he had to, but because he loved them. He voluntarily, the scripture says, gave up his time and his energies and his resources to meet the needs of individuals around him. And he calls us to that same example. The most potent place in the scripture that we find this unpacked is Philippians 2, 5 through 8. Write it down. Philippians 2, 5 through 8 says this. This is Paul talking to the church at Philippi. He says, in your relationships with one another, this is what we're talking about, relational marks. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be used for his own advantage, but rather he made himself nothing. And get this, he took upon himself the form of a servant. Three things to notice here. Number one, Jesus came for a specific purpose. And what was that purpose? Somebody unmute your mic and tell me. Why did he come? According to Philippians 2, 5 through 8. He came to be a what?
Servant.
He came to be a servant, to meet the needs of others. He poured out his glory, which was his by right, by the way. He had all divine power, all divine glory by nature. And he voluntarily poured it all out to meet the needs, the preferences, and the good of others versus looking to be served. He got in the mud with people. He washed the feet of the disciples. He served. He lived a life of just meeting others' needs, spiritual needs, physical needs. And then in verse 8 of Philippians 2, he says, and he humbled himself to be obedient unto death, even the death of the cross. The ultimate act of service to meet our need was to give his very life for us. That was his example. Second thing, Jesus came for a specific purpose, and it was to serve others. The second thing to note is that Jesus did it voluntarily. This is so important. I'm not talking, listen, everybody look at me. I'm not talking about servitude. I'm talking about service. There's a difference. Servitude is when someone makes you be a servant, imposes and dominates service onto you. That's not the example of Christ. Christ was not made to do this. I'm not talking about slavery. I'm not talking about engendered servitude. That's never appropriate and not what this principle is about. The key term is that it's voluntary. It's you have resources that have been given to you. And rather than spend those resources on yourself, that glory on yourself, you're going to turn around and voluntarily, like Christ, you're going to give it to meet the needs of others. Not out of compulsion, not out of constraint, but out of love, voluntarily giving yourself to meet others' needs. And Christ calls us to this same example. Philippians 2, back to that first verse. In your relationships with others, you have the same mindset as Jesus had with you. Jesus came to be a servant, and he tells us you have the same mindset in your relationships. You live to meet the needs of others because you love them. Furthermore, this is Jesus' example of leadership. Guys, stay with me. This is so incredible. Y'all want to know why you're a Christian? You want to know what's so special about Jesus and his messaging when he came, and how it totally threw all society on his ear. His message was so transformational. And this is one, right? This is probably the principal one that's so crazy. Matthew chapter 20, there's a story. James and John. Y'all remember James and John and the disciples? Shake your head with me. Yes, you've heard their names. They were very important. They came with their mother to Jesus. Get the picture. And they said, their mother said, brought her sons over and said, hey, Jesus, when you build your kingdom, when your kingdom is established, will you let James be on one side and John be on the other side at the table? In other words, when you are on your throne and in power and all this, would you put one son over here, over half your kingdom essentially, and my other son over here with half? And what's funny is this mother did it in front of all the other disciples. You got 12 disciples here watching along, and here comes this mother of Jesus and says, hey, would you make my sons your favorite? It's an amazing story. Anyway, but Jesus said, he responded and said, actually, that's not mine to give. But then he draws this incredible paradigm shift. He says, but you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord their authority over them, but it shall not be so with you. But whoever would be great among you must be your, anybody?
Servant.
Servant. If you're going to be great, what are you? A servant. And whoever is the greatest among you must be your servant, even as the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. Why did the mother want his son, her James and John, to be on the right and the left? Because what did she want for her family? Somebody tell me.
Prestige, perhaps?
Prestige. Yes, prestige. What else?
Power.
Power, yes. Power, prestige, glory. Because what did she consider leadership to be in the day? Glorious, huge. If you want to be served, you want to have glory, you're in leadership. Jesus said, let me tell you something. Let me turn this on its ear. Right now, when you look at leaders that were Gentiles in the day, the Romans of the day, he said they lord over their people. In other words, they were dominating. They were in their positions and everybody had to serve them, serve their whims, serve their goals, serve their preferences, serve their tastes. Leadership was all about being served in Jesus' day. And Jesus said, but you've got it all wrong. See, in my kingdom, leadership is different. Leadership is about getting in the mud and serving and meeting the needs of others, just as the Son of Man. In other words, me, the Messiah, God, didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give up his life. Jesus' definition of leadership is service. It's meeting the needs of those who are under your responsibility, not getting your way, not other people serving you. It's living to meet the needs of others. So what does this look like in everyday life? Living a life of service. First of all, there's a spirit of service. Have y'all ever been to like a grocery store or a store of some kind, and you walk in and you go up to the counter and you have a question, and you can just tell right away that the person at the counter does not have an air of wanting to meet your needs. They are totally engrossed in whatever they're doing at the time, and you just know it right away. They don't have an air or a spirit of service. They're consumed with themselves, not wanting to meet your needs. Yes, do you know what I'm talking about? There's an attitude of service that is so important. Listen, if you have actions of service without attitudes of service, the actions feel like obligation. If you serve other people, but you don't have a spirit of service, a spirit of warmth and authenticity and wanting to meet others' needs, you actually appear like you're having to be obligated to do something, and it doesn't come across as service. If you're going to do actions of service, you have to have an attitude of service. Service is a spirit. It begins with a spirit, and it has revelation or manifestation as an attitude. Having a servant spirit and servant attitudes and living it in the lives of others. Here comes the $20 bill. Life, I'm going to turn it this way so you can't see my number. Life is more like a $20 bill than it is like a credit card. There is an idea in business. It's called resource allocation. And here's the idea. The idea is that you only have so much resource to go around, to your company, to your family, to the world, to whatever. You've got a limited amount of energy, of time, of resource. And the biggest distinctive in life, the biggest factor in how your life is going to turn out is how you spend your limited resources. A credit card feels kind of unlimited. When I go out to the store and I have a credit card, I'm not looking at the pennies. I'm not really even sometimes looking at the tag. I just know I've got enough to spend. And if I want 3 shirts and not 2, you know what? I can make it happen because I got my Visa right here. But that's not what life's about. Life's a 20. When you go into the store, you've only got 20 bucks. And once the 20 is gone, it's gone. It's limited. And the question is this: what are you spending it on? Because a servant, listen, a servant spends their 20 on others. A servant invests their life, their resources, their time, their energy in meeting the needs of others. Let me ask you, how are you spending your 20? Do you spend most of your 20 on yourself, meeting your needs? Do you spend most of your time and resources on your own advancement? Or do you spend your time and resource and energy on meeting others' needs? If you do that, then you're a servant. And this is not only the way to follow in the example of Christ, it's the way to find fulfillment. It really is. I'm going to quote Gandhi. Are you ready? This is what Gandhi said. And he said so many wonderful things. His theology was a little whacked, but he said some wonderful things. And this is what he said. He said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The best way to store up a bank account is to spend it. Jesus said the same thing. He said, if you want to find your life, what do you have to do? You have to lose it. It's the great paradox of Christianity. To find it, you lose it. To get it, you spend it. How are you spending your time? Are you doing it to meet the needs of others? You should. What is service? Service is this. Service is voluntarily giving of my time, my energies, and my resources to meet the needs of those around me. Voluntarily doing it. Not because you have to, because you want to, because you love them. Questions, thoughts? You agree, you disagree? Unmute your mic. What do you think? Is this a relational mark that we should adopt, that should be characteristic of our tree, of our character?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Let me ask a question. How could you do this with one another in the School of Music? Wouldn't it be amazing if the Collinsworth School of Music, the distinctive of its culture is that we served one another? Wow. Wouldn't that be amazing? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the next 3 minutes. Mr. Clay, I'm going to ask you to send us to breakout rooms, and I want you to put this into application. I want you to gather. Now, listen, here's what I've heard. Everybody lean forward and give me the whites of your eyes. This is what I hear from professors, that sometimes when we use this Zoom breakout function, that people just go to the breakout and they just kind of sort of take a nap. There's this understanding that, we're just going to have 5 minutes of silence. And let's not do that, okay? I want you to take the initiative. I want you to have interesting conversation. And I want it to be this. I want you to be bold enough to step out, engage one another, and ask yourself the questions. How can you apply the habit of service in your life right now? 1, 2, 3, go. Service is what? Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me. Terrence Alexander, good morning.
Voluntarily giving of
Good
my
morning, Dr. B.
resources to meet the needs of those around me.
Yes. Voluntarily giving of my time, my resources, and my energies to meet the needs of others. Spending my 20 on others to meet their needs and not on myself. All right. The next thing, got your pencil out? Here we go. Number 2, second concept for the day, a habit, is illustrated by this microphone right here. And it's called platform awareness. Mark it down. Platform awareness. Sharing my screen. What is platform awareness? It's this: living with the understanding that people are constantly observing my life and utilizing said platform to intentionally communicate my values. Oh my goodness, this is so important. If you're smart, you will listen to this. Let me say that again. Living with the understanding. Most people don't understand this, guys. Living with the understanding that people are constantly observing my life and utilizing that platform intentionally to communicate my values. Everybody look at me. Here is a truth. I got 2 truths and 1 application, and we're going to go fast. First truth is life is a platform. Let me say that again. Life is a platform, and people are always watching you. One of the biggest mistakes individuals make is they are, listen, oblivious to the fact that they're constantly being observed by those who are above them, their boss, their professors, their friends, those who are next to them, their colleagues, and those who they have responsibility for, especially their nieces, their nephews, their children, their younger brothers and sisters. They're constantly being watched and observed. And if you're wise as an individual, you'll live with that awareness. You'll live with that understanding, and you will use that platform intentionally, not to bring shame to your values, but to intentionally communicate and affirm your values with that platform. Second thing, that's the first thing, life's a platform. Second truth, everything communicates. Let me say that again. Everything. How much does everything leave out, Lillian? Good morning, by the way. How you doing?
Morning. I'm doing really good.
It's good to see you. How
Good to
much
see
does
you
the
too.
word good? We still have to have coffee sometime and hang out a little bit,
Well,
right?
I'm enjoying my coffee right now, but yes,
Well,
definitely.
we're having it virtually today, I guess. Let me
Yes.
ask you, what does the word everything include?
I mean, everything, just even in like everything from like the littlest details.
Yes,
Because
does it
every
leave out
little
anything?
detail counts. It's some people forget to realize the little things, and that's the little things that we truly treasure most and just visually catch.
Wow, that is very well said. Yes, everything means everything to the point of minute detail. Everything communicates. Listen, if everybody just say this with me, say it 3 times, because you need to make this part of your life forever. Understand, everything communicates. The way you are sitting right now communicates a message to me. I'm looking at it. You are communicating whether you are engaged in this, whether you value me, whether you're interested in the subject matter, by the way your posture is sitting right now. It just communicates. You may be oblivious to it, but it's communicating to me. By the fact you turn on your camera or you don't, it communicates a message. Or when you do or you don't. What the background has, or in your screen, or what it doesn't have, communicates a message. How you speak communicates. Your vocal inflection, your posture, your facial expression, your gestures communicate. How you dress communicates. How you walk communicates. Where you go, what you don't do, what you wear on your shirt, what your hat says. All those things are communicating signals about who you are and what you believe and what you value to people all over your life. And guess what? They're watching. They're observing. And it was interesting. There's been numerous studies, and sometime we'll unpack this in more detail, but there've been numerous studies that have said that 85%, 85 to 86% of all interpersonal communication that takes place is not word choice related. But the communication that takes place between two individuals, 85% of it is either facial expression, it's in the how. If I come in and I say, hey guys, good to see you today. That communicates a whole lot of stuff about me, about what I feel about you, about the mood I'm in the day, all that sort of thing. If I come in and I go, hey guys, it's great to see you today. I said the exact same words, totally different communication. Yes? Everything communicates. George Bernard Shaw. Y'all know George Bernard Shaw, yes? Studied him, read his work. He made this statement. He said, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. In other words, a lot of people have difficulty in communication because they think they've communicated something, but they really haven't. They thought they did, but you didn't hear it. You didn't get it the right way. That is a problem in communication. But Joseph Bolin says the second biggest problem in communication is the ignorance that it is indeed taking place. In other words, a lot of people are communicating and they have no idea they're communicating. They're oblivious to the fact that they're constantly communicating to people around them. And let me just tell you, if you are wise, you will leverage that platform to intentionally communicate your values to everyone who's watching, rather than be a victim of unintentional communication to those that are observing you on the platform of life. How does this play out? All right, let me give you 30 seconds of something that I've actually gone back and forth thinking, should I share this or not? But I want to ask your permission. Can I get real with you? Can I say something that's like super real? Let me talk to you about this in the context of a career. Every one of you, no matter what you do, if you're a performer, an educator, a minister, whatever, in music, you're going to have someone who has to give an account for you, who is your boss, who's responsible for you. And let me tell you, I feel that job. I am a boss. I have 67 faculty that are direct reports to me, 19 full-time and another 48 adjuncts. And you know what my job is at CBU? You know why I draw the paycheck that I do? I answer to the provost of California Baptist University. And you know what my job is to make sure they do their job well. That's my job. At the end of the day, they have to support our mission, and they have to treat you right, and they have to be excellent in their education and in their teaching. And if they don't, they've got a problem with me, because it's my job to ensure, on behalf of California Baptist University, our students, our faculty, our mission, that they are doing their job well. And every good boss is watching to make sure to always assess whether that's happening or not. And let me tell you what else they're assessing. They're assessing to see if the people under their care have the potential to take on additional responsibility. And they're watching intentionally for that. Let me read you something. It's like a coach, like my son, William. I like to use my son, William, as an illustration. He plays baseball, and it's the coach. The coach may have a great time, pat the boys on the head and say, way to go. But you know what the coach is always doing at every practice, at every game? They're assessing their players. And that is what a good coach does, to try to find out, does that player need to be at the 5th spot or the 3rd spot for the good of the team next game? Or do I need to look at somebody else in that spot? But their job is to assess. And in the same way, people whom you serve are bound by the necessities of leadership to constantly be assessing those for whom they have responsibility. Understanding this is very important. Oftentimes, listen, get me, this is a picnic moment. This is a picnic table moment. oftentimes in moments of foolishness or hyper comfort with your boss, an employee will relax into unwise behavior or speech in front of those that they have to answer to. And if the boss is a good one, make no mistake, she or he will notice and remember. And while they may never divulge this to you, it will be logged in their professional image that they have of you. And in a moment of decision, may make the difference between trust and hesitancy, between advancement and being overlooked. What's the takeaway? Understand that when you are hanging out or in a meeting with someone who is responsible for you, understand what's going on. They're watching. They're observing. You know why? Because they're responsible to ensure that you're representing the mission and the organization well, that you're doing your job well, and they're looking to see, is this a candidate for future leadership? Are they on the right seat, or could they handle more responsibility? That's constantly being assessed in that relationship. You say, Dr. Bolin, that's pretty harsh, isn't it? I'm being real with you. That is life, and it's real. And you know what? It's a scriptural concept. Write this down. Proverbs 23, verses 1 and 2. 23, 1 and 2. Scripture says, when you sit down to eat with a ruler, observe carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you're a person given to appetite. In other words, this, if you sit down to eat with someone important, your boss or the president of your institution or the principal or the conductor of your orchestra or whatever, understand what's going on. You are being observed. And if you're someone who's a glutton and just going to make a fool of themselves and eat a lot, you're better to put a knife to your throat than to do that. Understand the stakes. Understand the platform that you're on. And if you're wise, you will intentionally act and demonstrate your values in that situation. It's very important. Another one, when you eat with the queen or the king, it's not time to let your hair down because they're watching. They're observing. You say, Dr. Bolin, I don't know about that. Are you calling us to live inauthentically? Are you telling us that we should be scared and tied up in knots and stressed all the time because people are always watching us? No, lean forward and give me the whites of your eyes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying live inauthentically, but I am saying this, live intentionally. Let me say it again. Don't live inauthentically, but live intentionally. The understanding that life is a microphone. It's a platform, and the mic's always in your mouth. And if you're wise, you'll live with that understanding, with that awareness. And whether it's to those above you, whether it's those below you or your friends, by the way, they are hypocrite. What's the right term? They are
Hypocritical.
Yes, but they're always on the lookout. I'm trying to think of a word and I can't place it right now, but they're monitors. They are super sensitive to hypocrisy. And the more influence you have, by the way, those under you, they are watching you constantly. I'm fully aware that every one of you always watch me all the time to see, is Dr. Bolin real or not? What is this thing? Was he really what he is? I don't know about that. Who is this guy? And you're asking the same questions about your faculty and your teachers. And that's going on. And if you're smart, you'll realize that not only those above you are watching, but those underneath you are watching really close. Lillian, they're watching the micro. They're watching every nuance because they want to know, is this person the real deal? Are they practice what they preach or do they not? And if you live oblivious to that, it's a mistake. Live your best self. Live intentionally your values, not inauthentically. They're your values. All of us can have a spectrum, right, of how we live. We could be our best self or not so good. We can live toward the flesh some days, live toward the spirit some days. But this is one of the reasons that we need to live to the spirit. We need to live our values because we are on a platform all the time and people are watching. What is platform awareness? It's living with the understanding that people are constantly observing my life and utilizing said platform to intentionally communicate my values. Take 5 minutes or 4 minutes, Mr. McClay, and ask yourselves the question, do you buy into this? Is it important? And how do I live this mark? Go.
Hello, hello. Anybody here? Hello, hello.
Are you back? Hey, Morgan. Good to see you.
Hi, Dr. Bolin. It's good to see you too.
Hey, you look well.
Thank you. You too.
All right, we have everybody back. Sorry, I lied. I said we're going to take 5 minutes and then we don't have 5 minutes. So we're back. Okay. Was it a good 30-second discussion at least? All right. I'm curious. I know that's kind of a unique one. I'm interested to hear how y'all think about that. Last one. You ready? And then we're going to do this in 2 minutes. Last one is gratitude. Write it down. Gratitude. Living a habit of gratitude. What is gratitude? Expressing sincere thanks to those who have invested in my life. Very simple. Expressing sincere thanks to those who have invested in my life. Big idea here. Gratefulness is so important. Big idea is this. Most of what you've accomplished in your life has been because God gave you the strength and the ability and the gifting, and others made a way for you, cultivated that, encouraged you, provided for you. Most of your success and achievements in life can be directly traced back to the influence of others and the provision and the encouragement of others. And it is a fool's posture to think that they, by their own bootstraps, got themselves to where they are today, and they don't really have anything to be grateful for. The reality is we all do. And I think we all would say that we agree with that. Would y'all agree with me that you would say, yes, I think that's true. I see that. But how many of you are intentional with expressing to the people who have done that for you how grateful you are to them? I want to give you a challenge. Can you think of who the top 5 influencers on your life are right now? Take 20 seconds and think about that. Who are they? I have 5 people who were the most influential in my life. And actually, as I've been preparing for this today, God's convicted me that I need to do this little exercise with each of them right now while I still can, because it's been a while. Expressing gratitude and gestures of sincere thanks to them is one of the most important things you can do for those relationships. And it is godly. You can do it very quickly. That's why I have this stopwatch here. You can be specific, tell them why you're grateful, what they did specifically for you, and be sincere with words, your own voice, your own specific, intimate, warm, authentic style. And you can do it in many different ways. You can write a handwritten note. You can write a text message. You can pick up the phone. You can shoot an email. You can have a conversation in the hall. And you know how long it takes to have a moment of gratefulness? About 45 seconds. Here's what you could do. You could say, hey, listen, I was thinking about you this week, and I just want you to know that your teaching or your shepherding or your friendship or your care or your example or your leadership has made such an incredible impact on me. And I want you to know that your influence has been instrumental in making me into the person I am today. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your investment in my life. If someone gave that to you, that little 45-second expression, you have no idea, by the way, when you've been investing in people, how much of a fresh breeze that is for someone, how encouraging that is for people who've invested in your life. Gratefulness is being intentional to sincerely express thanks. And you know what? You can do it today. You, with those 5 influencers or those 10 influencers or whoever, it could just be a quick expression in a multitude of different fashions, your own voice, your own way, but just take 45 seconds and intentionally live a life and a habit of gratitude. It's 11:45, and I can't go into this any further, else I would, because it's so very important. 3 things today we talked about: gratitude, expressing through attitudes and gestures, sincere thanks to those around me, such an important habit, such an important mark. Number 2, does anybody remember another one? Can tell me?
Platform of awareness.
Platform awareness. Living with the understanding that people are observing you, above you, beside and below you, and intentionally leveraging or using that platform to communicate your values. And then 3rd,
Service.
Service. Living a life of service. Living your life, spending your 20 to meet the needs of others. Everybody, I love you. Listen, I really do. I got some good news this week. I'm hopeful that the signs are looking like we may be able to come back to campus in the spring. I am hopeful. I can't, it's nothing's official yet, but Riverside, the way it's working and the state guidelines that are coming down, it's starting to look positive, and I'm really excited about that because I want to see you every day out in the halls and be able to hang with you and be able to serve you in the name of the Lord Jesus as much as I can. Can I pray for you and over you this weekend? Praying you get rest. I know you're doing all right, but it's a tough week. We've crossed that pivot halfway point, but there's a lot to go yet. And just know I am lifting you up and asking His grace in your life. Father, I ask on behalf of my brothers and sisters here today, Father, that you would give them great grace, great passion, great energy. Father, give us the ability to live these habits out, live these marks out. Father, to use our platform for you. Father, to serve one another in your example and to be grateful in your example. And Father, we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, get some rest this weekend. Have a good time. Unmute your mic. Let me hear from you. I just want to hear your voice again.
Dr. Bolin. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bolin.
Love you guys.
Bye, Dr. Bolin. Love you.
Love you.
Thank you.
Today.